And now, live from Level 5 Productions on the island of Milleronia, it's The Larry Miller Show. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and everyone who had a great Mother's Day. Hi, folks, and welcome back to the Larry Miller Show. I'm Larry Miller, but in a way, aren't we all? And yes, I said great Mother's Day, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But boy, oh boy, and we are not on Milleronia today because of Mother's Day, but Colonel Jeff and I are here at stately Miller Manor, and we're in the studio here at Miller Manor, and everyone's happy. And Ozzy and Maggie, the doggies, are here in the studio with us as ever. And it's beautiful out here in Southern California, and we're happy, and we're making another show, which makes us happy. It's a great blessing, folks, and I hope you all feel the same way and you enjoy listening. And but once again, that music makes me just chipper. And the Colonel's the same way. Of course, that's the Paul Robeson Orchestra and the Ava Gardner Dancers, featuring boy tenor George Carlin asking the musical question, when someone asks you a penny for your thoughts and you put your 2 cents in, what happens to the other penny? Well, that's a heck of a question. Not surprisingly, anything from George Carlin, God bless him, was always nifty. It was just, what a mind and what a heart he had, and still does. Well, first of all, George, good question, and I think, and I asked the Colonel this too, and we agreed that used to be, in days past, that each of those pennies was used to weigh down the tone arm of every record player in America. And we had one in our house that did that. My dad, God bless him, we got a Fisher stereo, which was a big deal thing in 1960 or so when my mom and dad went and got one of those. I think my dad brought it home, and that was a pretty official stereo unit there. And we had one was an FM tuner, I think, if that's the right word, I think it is. And the other was, a record player, a turntable, that went into a different place, a sliding drawer in the cabinet he got. Is that called a credenza? And, the only problem was, and he hooked that up with, Julie Fink from down the block, who was always along to help hook things up. And, they were always, I always loved the Finks and the kids, and, they were always, Julie knew everything about, he was always really knowledgeable enough to get things 96% right. So they were now my dad didn't know how to do this and that, but on the turntable, they both hooked it up there, and the tone arm wouldn't go down on the record. It was too light, too airy. It just wouldn't balance down onto the record. So my dad took out a dime from his pocket and put that on the front of the tone arm, and it worked perfectly. You could push the automatic button, and you'd turn the player and the unit on the right way. I hope those words are close. But, and then that dime on the tone arm would go up. It shook the tiniest bit. It shook just a little bit. But it would then move over onto the record itself and go down, plop down onto the record, and it worked perfectly. And folks, that tone arm and that record player and that stereo and that dime were in the same place for 35 years. Past my parents came to our wedding, God bless them, and but that dime was ours. So when Colonel Jeff said, hey, maybe they use the pennies for the tone arms, I said, Well, maybe they used a dime too. And I told him that story, and I thought I would tell you. I think, well, what happened to those pennies? What happened to all pennies that came in? Well, as I said, used to be the Colonel and I agreed that every record player in America had one on the tone arm. But here was my idea that, when people stopped using razor blades, and they haven't stopped using razor blades. I still use a safety razor, not as much as I used to, but I've still got one, and they still make razor blades with weird names, by the way, but that's something else. And you know what? There was a slot in every medicine cabinet, again, in America. Someone got the idea, and the Colonel and I just agreed it was either the dumbest idea in history or the most brilliant idea in history. Every medicine cabinet that was put into an American bathroom, where it was recessed in the wall, inserted into the wall there, well, those walls were, walls. They had plaster and sheetrock, and then they were made with 2x4, and maybe they had a beam, but they didn't really need one. And this was before that there wasn't any, lining. There was no asbestos in there, and there was just a big space that went down to the foundation. So about 5 feet there. And the point is, someone got the idea, and they did it. They put it in every medicine cabinet ever made. There was a little slot. I wonder if you folks had those, that a little slot in the back wall, the little tin or metal part of the medicine cabinet, and that was for used razor blades. And that's why when every man had razor blades and every man shaved, and when the razor blade got old, if you think about it, it's a great idea. What else would you do with the used razor blade? I mean, the answer is nothing. If you just, wrap it in something? Wrap it in paper or in wax paper or cardboard or anything, and then toss it out in your big, garbage bag in the kitchen where you put the old ribs from dinner? I mean, someone's going to get sliced by that eventually, you or someone who collects the garbage. And the point is, I think that's brilliant. I remember that from my childhood. I remember seeing that slot thinking, how do you like that? And knowing that's where my daddy put his razor blades. And the slot itself was only, about 2 inches long. It was horizontal. And maybe an eighth of an inch thick, a 16th or an eighth, but plenty of room for a razor blade. And you could just take the razor blade, stick it in there, and it would just go, it would go, down 4 feet into the wall of your bathroom. And I thought that maybe when most people today, of course, almost all men stopped using razor blades today, people could use that slot for pennies, for all the old pennies from tone arms, and most people don't have tone arms anymore either. What would he do with then all those pennies? Stick them in the razor blade slot there. And then the Colonel and I wondered, and I think it's a good question, who finds that? And, we thought, maybe that when every house is torn down in 1,000 years by the people of the future, and when our houses are all torn down, and they find in every house, a pile of razor blades and pennies, I think they have to look at each other, the people of the future, and I love saying that, but the people of the future have to look at each other and just say, that's why these guys lost. I mean, they couldn't hang on. What in the world would anyone want with saving razor blades and pennies? And I bet they all have beards, too. In any case, good question. Good Lord. George Carlin. God bless him. And good question. And a penny for your thoughts, and you put 2 cents in. What happens to the other penny? Eventually, they'll be found by the people of the future. And there was a reason, by the way, I put in Paul Robeson and Ava Gardner. And you'll know in just a little bit. And by the Larry Miller Store. That's right. Today, I'm talking to you about the Larry Miller Store. The Larry Miller Show store. It's open for business, and it features what the Colonel loves to call 3 soon-to-be classic T-shirt designs. And it's true, we're very proud of these. You know what? and take a look. What you do is you go to type in LarryMillerShow.com/store. That's not confusing, is it? So you go to LarryMillerShow.com/store. And that'll take you to the Larry Miller Show store. And boy, I love these things. This thing is, we have the Larry Miller Drinking Society shirt, which features the famous LMDS logo, and our semi-secret slogan, Nominum Quid Geminus, which is Latin for, you call that a double? Which, let's be honest, I think we've all wanted to say to the stray publican here and there. You call that a double? That's a good T-shirt. Nominum Quid Geminus. And we have a new one now that says, Keep Calm and Larry On a T-shirt. I love those Keep Calm and Carry On, which is all true and real from England in World War II. And, well, they got pounded by the Nazis. And that's the truth of it. A lot of people got pounded by the Nazis, but those folks really gave it to England, and they destroyed everything they could, whether it was schools or buildings or houses or churches, anything at all. And, that was their slogan. Now, they put them up on posters for the English people, and they put them up all over all their cities. Keep calm and carry on. And I think that's, you know what? That's good. Churchill, as he would walk through everything that had just been bombed out, heard many, many times, Winston Churchill heard people would call out to him, give it them back, sir, which I think is a great thing to say. Give it them back, sir. And he would nod with his cigar. And they did. They gave it them back. But at any rate, though, that's why I just love, and we made this Keep Calm and Larry On shirt. And as we like saying here, it's not just a mantra for life. It's the motto sensation that's sweeping the nation. And you got to wink when you say that. But you know what? I like that slogan. That was Colonel Jeff's too. And the motto sensation that's sweeping the nation. It's hard to say that without giggling, which in a good sense. I mean, because it's just fun to say. And finally, though, show how tough you are. And let's be honest, that's what we all want, to show how tough we are. There's the brand new, and this one, this T-shirt says, I survived volcano number 2, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt. And, boy, I like that one, too. All of these shirts, by the way, are printed on demand, which is a good word for anything that has my name on it. So you can choose from, there's a variety of colors, and they're available in both gentlemen's and ladies' cut T-shirts. And it's a pleasure to be able to say 2 words like that. Gentlemen and ladies. Ladies and gentlemen. Folks, like it or not, that's you and me. So what you do is you go to the, remember, LarryMillerShow.com/store. And once again, that's LarryMillerShow.com/store. And that brings me to my favorite part of the show, the joke of the week. Boy, that's making me giggle too. I guess I'm a giggler. At any rate, folks, this is a good one, and Colonel Jeff and I both like it. Fellow walks into a bar. It's just great how many jokes start that way, by the way. I love that start. And it just shows you that's the common turf across America for, about the last 100 or 200 years. Man, I guess that even in revolutionary times, people would tell a story. Man walks into a pub. At any rate, so that's how the joke starts. Man walks into a bar and sidles up to it and sits down on the stool, and he just happens to glance over on his right, and there's a lovely young blonde woman sitting there on the stool next to him. And So bartender comes over, he orders a drink, and sits there and enjoys that and has a few sips of that, and the TV is on and the news is on. It's the 10 o'clock news at night. And there's an item on there that, a fella today just went up to a building and he threatened to kill himself. He threatened to jump off the building. And he threatened to commit suicide. And the man at the bar just says, boy, he just leans over, turns to the blonde woman next to him and says, boy, that's a tough thing too. I bet he jumps too. And the woman next to him says, no, I'm going to have to disagree with you there. I don't think he's going to jump at all. And the man says, well, that sounds like something we should bet on. I say he jumps and you say he doesn't jump. She says, that's right. And he takes out a $20 bill and slaps it down on the bar. And she just looks at him and she takes out a $20 bill and slaps it down on the bar. And then they go back to watching the show to see what happens here. Well, sure enough, terrible thing. The news anchor says, and it turns out the guy did jump and he died. He killed himself. And the man and the blonde say, well, how do you like that? And the blonde pushes the 220s over to him, and she says, well, you won. And he says, I got to be honest with you. I saw that item on the news earlier today before I came here, and I knew that he jumped. So I don't want to just take your money for that. And she says, well, I saw it too. I just didn't think he'd do it again. We like that. That's a good, silly joke. And as you know, our policy is here. I always say, you know what, folks? If you like that joke, please pass it along to your loved ones and your friends. And that brings me to my second favorite part of the show, the Poetry Corner. Boy, even that cough is, well, I guess I'm not giggling at that. That fella's cough. He's got to have that taken a look at. Someone's got to look at that for him. Anyway, this is a good poem, folks. It's by the great Herman Melville of Moby Dick fame and so many other things from the 19th century. What a great American writer. And it's called Gettysburg. And here it is. O pride of the days in prime of the months, now trebled in great renown, when before the ark of our holy cause fell Dagon down. Dagon foredoomed, who armed and targed, never his impious heart enlarged. Beyond that hour God walled his power, and then the last invader charged. He charged, and in that charge condensed his all of hate and all of fire. He sought to blast us in his scorn and wither us in his ire. Before him went the shriek of shells, aerial screamings, taunts, and yells. Then the three waves in flashed advance surged but were met, and back they set. Pride was repelled by sterner pride, and right is a stronghold yet. Before our lines it seemed a beach which wild September gales have strown with havoc on wreck, and dashed therewith pale crews unknown, men, arms, and steeds. The evening sun died on the face of each lifeless one, and died along the winding marge of fight, and searching parties lone. Sloped on the hill the mounds were green, our center held that place of graves, and some still hold it in their swoon, and over these a glory waves. The warrior monument crashed in fight shall soar transfigured in loftier light. A meaning ampler bear, soldier and priest with hymn and prayer have laid the stone, and every bone shall rest in honor there. Well, that's lovely, isn't it? Herman Melville. By golly. And there's nothing greater than that story. And you know, folks, we were just saying that we were talking about how, because, well, the Mississippi River is going to come up. I'm going to tell you something about it very soon. And Gettysburg, the Battle of Gettysburg, was won by the Union, by the Bluecoats, by the United States on July 3rd, 1863, I think it was. And on the same day, July 3rd, 1863, the Battle of Vicksburg was won. It was a siege maintained by General Grant on one of the great towns and cities on the Mississippi River. Boy, those folks in Vicksburg had it bad. It was, I think, more than a year, a good deal more than a year. And they had no food and nothing to get, really. They were encircled. And, well, they ate sawdust and horses and whatever they could get a hold of. And then eventually they surrendered. But both happened on July 3rd. And, well, it means a lot, folks. These things, you know, I've never known how to feel, oh boy, we won or we lost. You know what, though? It just means a lot that it was done, and that these brave men and all the, good Lord, all the, Clara Barton nurses, wasn't she from the Civil War too? So many people saved and took so many lives, and America moved another step forward. Well, you know what, though, folks? It means a lot, and you'll know why coming up now, because this is time for my third favorite part of the show, MMM, the Triple M, Magic Movie Moment. Well, folks, this is a great one for today that I'd seen before, but, it's been a long time, and I saw it over the weekend. Showboat, from 1951, directed by George Sidney. And good Lord, what a Jerome Kern and Oscar Hammerstein II, and writing. There's so many credits here, and Edna Ferber, the great Edna Ferber, wrote the novel, and, folks, in fact, the greatest music, I think, in many ways, from any American musical, and I'm not sure there's no clear credits here for that, but, what a cast. Katherine Grayson as Marjorie, the lead, Ava Gardner as Julie Laverne. What a wonderful character. What a great job she did. Howard Keel as Gaylord Ravenel. And the Colonel and I were smiling at this. They're great names. A little on the knuckleheaded side sometimes, in musicals, but that's all right. Gaylord Ravenel, and he was a gambler, and he fell in love with Katherine Grayson, who played the daughter of Captain Andy Hawks. Captain Andy Hawks was, played by the great Joe E. Brown in this movie. And, he was wonderful. They were all so good. And his wife in the movie was Agnes Moorehead, who you will know, from so many movies, and also from the TV show Bewitched. She played Samantha's mother. What a great actress. She said, "Well, Samantha, now, all I want you to know, darling, is that She was wonderful in that show. And Marge and Gower Champion. I don't know if you know those names, but they were some of the biggest dancers and, as musicians and singers, they were just great. And this is quite a thing, folks, this movie. See it, please, sometime. Showboat. And the reason it relates also to Vicksburg, it reminded me of things you and I really don't know that much. The Mississippi River through the 19th century, from the beginning to the end and into the 20th century, was filled with showboats. Now, it's not a word we hear anymore, but these were boats, large ones, ships, paddle wheels, and they were very nicely made, and they went up and down the Mississippi with shows. They would stop at every town like Natchez, everything along the Mississippi. They would stop and drop anchor and hook up at the dock there, and all the local folks would know. They'd advertise it beforehand. All the people who worked for the showboat company would make sure everyone in the town and the city knew that the showboat was coming, whatever the name of it was. And they had great colorful names for it too. And these showboats would land and people would come on from wherever they were, and they would, have dinner there, and they could dance and have a few drinks, and then they would see the show on the boat. And there were many entertainers who were there. It was very popular. And a good way to make a living there for a lot of the actors in 1850, 1880, 1890, 1910. They were very big then. And this show tells the story. It's just great. A gambler, a handsome gambler. That was Howard Keel. And he's working a lot of these, as a lot of gamblers did. They would work a lot of these boats, the showboats. And he fell in love with Katherine Grayson, who played, Magnolia Hawks, Joey Brown's daughter, Cap Mandy's daughter. And she fell in love with him too. And then, when his luck runs out a little, their relationship is troubled, and you should see the rest. But it's a great story, and the magic movie moment for me is the great Ava Gardner plays a character who just hasn't found happiness in life. She's filled with a tugging sorrow at her heart. And she has a big drinking problem. Not a drinking problem, a big one. And she couldn't hold a job as the great singer she was. She herself, in that area there on the showboats, was a wonderful singer, but she couldn't hold jobs, and she was so unhappy. And all she hooked up with was men who were also unhappy and mistreated her. And they were big drinkers too. And folks, near the end of the movie, as the stories are told, and then the couple breaks up, and the couple, he hears about it, and Howard Keel hears about it from Ava Gardner in a different post in a different area there, and she tells him, do this, your wife. And they had separated, and he doesn't even know he has a daughter with her. And the wife has been raising the daughter, waiting for him, hoping against hope for him to come back to them. And Ava Gardner helps that. And folks, by the end of the movie, as the story is being told, it's great because they play one of the greatest songs again from this movie, a fabulous score with great lyrics and great music, but a song that became an American tradition the second it was revealed, the second it was first sung. And that song is Old Man River. Now, you've probably heard that or heard of it, but it's very good. It's very important. Listen to the words again. It's sung, in this case, by William Warwick and in the movie, but it was, I think, made most famous by the great Paul Robeson. What a voice, what a talent he was. He spoke, in fact, to my father's high school in Brooklyn, Abraham Lincoln High in Brooklyn, when my dad was a kid. And they all went there in their little short-sleeve white shirts and their little short clip-on ties to an assembly, and the great Paul Robeson came to speak to them. And my dad remembered, he told me that Paul Robeson, with that great resounding bass voice, said to them from the stage, he said, "I, the grandson of a slave." And then he continued, "I'm here today to speak to you, all of you." But that phrase really made me think, even when I was a kid, when my dad told me, good Lord, folks, "I, the grandson of a slave." Well, folks, that song itself, what great words, what great images, what great truths it had. Those words, Old Man River, that old man river, he must know something. He just keeps rolling. And that old man river, he just keeps rolling along. What a phrase, though, to call it Old Man River, the Mississippi. And the way it's sung by Robeson, good Lord. Old Man River, that old man river. I hate to insult it really by taking a whack at it like that myself, but what a way to think of it. He must know something. He just keeps rolling. That old man river, he just keeps rolling along. And then, what I remember. That's why, yes, what's that last part of the song that, after tote that barge, tote that barge, lift that rail, get a little drunk and you lands in jail. But I keep hoping. That last verse, I'm just weary and sick of trying. That sentiment is so deep, so wrenching, really. I'm just weary and sick of trying. I'm tired of living, but scared of dying. But Old Man River, that Old Man River, he just keeps rolling along. And they play that not only in the body of the movie, and it's so moving, and it became one of the greatest hits in American theater in the whole century. And I'll tell you what, though, folks, they play it again at the end when, yes, love conquers all, and Howard Keel and Kathryn Grayson are find their affection again. Howard comes back to the dock there, and he meets his daughter and sees his wife again, and their love is instant. And then Joey Brown and Agnes Moorehead see that. Joey Brown and Agnes Moorehead see them. They see them hug. They're up at the top there, where the captain can call out his commands, and from the boat, and they smile too at each other. They rediscover their affection for each other. And then the magic movie moment for me, in this great movie, we cut to Ava Gardner as Julie Laverne, who's on the docks, and the show's over, and the showboat is pulling away to go to another city and play another show. But not with Ava Gardner. She hasn't been on the boat. Not for a while. It's not for her. She's too sad. But she watches these two that she brought back together hug and kiss and commit themselves to each other in that great joy of love. And Ava Gardner reflects that. She acts that so beautifully. Her eyes fill with tears, and she She almost smiles, though, because she knows that is something she will never have. And now, I was just saying to the Colonel before, what will happen to her? What will happen to Ava Gardner as the showboat sails away and paddles itself away, and people commit themselves in love to each other? Well, not for Ava Gardner. She will go back to her bad drinking habit and the bad men who are attracted to her and do the same thing. And unless she gets very lucky or makes a great, great change in herself, she's waving goodbye to the showboat and to her life with it. And folks, it's a beautiful movie and made even more beautiful by Ava Gardner crying as it paddles away. Please see that. Please see this great movie. If you've never seen it, remember it was a huge Broadway hit. And I'll tell you what, as happy as you may be when you hear great music, when you hear Old Man River sung in that movie, well, you'll know what music is. Oh, how meaningful to know that. And you know what? It should be known that way. Because that's why Mother's Day is such an important day. We just had it, of course, and Father's Day is never the same. I'll tell you about that in a second, but boy, Mother's Day, a good mother deserves a good Mother's Day. And that's the simple truth of it. Fathers, frankly, and I'm a dad. No, fathers don't need another tie, is all I'm saying. And then I've gotten gifts from my kids, God bless them, as they grew up with a tie or a belt, and they're wonderful. And I love them, and I love the gifts too, but I love the kids who gave them to me. But the truth is, it's Mom who deserves a great day. I remember cooking for my mother on Mother's Day. I don't know about you, but my sister and I, every single year, we were going to cook for Mom. That's the gift. That was our big gift. We'd get other things too, but that was the big gift. On that Sunday morning on Mother's Day, we'd wake her up and early and shake her out of bed and just, Mom, hey, Mom, today's Happy Mother's Day. And by the way, right off the bat, the poor woman's finally sleeping. Leave her alone. I mean, that's just something I want to insert there. Just, she's asleep. Good Lord, let her be. She doesn't need you to shake her out of bed just to tell her don't get out of bed, because that was the thing. We'd shake, you'd say, Mom, Mom, Mom. And, you wake up mothers like that. The first thing, they might panic. They'd blink their eyes. But who's sick? Anybody sick? They don't know what's going on. No, Mom, today we cook for you. We're going to cook for you. We cook for you. You don't cook a thing. You don't have to. In fact, don't get out of bed. You stay in bed. We're going to go to the kitchen. We're going to cook everything and bring it here to you. And I'm telling you, we did this every year, but every year my mother, God bless her, would look at us and say, please, no, sweetheart, no, don't do that. Don't, just don't. I don't need anything. Just the two of you, just go make yourself some cereal and just, and watch some cartoons. And, I'm going to go back to sleep if I can. And then but don't cook for me, because she knew that, by the way, because we absolutely ruined the kitchen every year. Every year we destroyed the kitchen. I mean, come on. We would just, get just to make anything, you'd hear pots and pans hitting the floor and, giant gas explosions with orange flames just shooting into the living room. But I mean, we destroyed the kitchen. And every year, bang, and then after about an hour and a half, we'd bring Mom a cup of coffee, which was terrible coffee. It couldn't be unterrible, but she would take it, all right, and then, like a small glass of orange juice. And, God bless her, she accepted it because she knew we were really trying. And it was never good. Whatever we made was terrible. We'd always try something like French toast. which was horrible. Whatever we made was horrifying. And the fact that we didn't burn the house down was the great blessing of that Mother's Day. Because she knew, my mom knew that the real Mother's Day was she had to clean the kitchen after every one of these episodes. And she would have to go in there. She could have used a crew there, a building crew of just, really just sand everything down. But she did it, and we cooked for her every year. It was different for Dad. I got my father Old Spice every year. So for Father's Day, again, it's different. We go to the pharmacy, Mr. Brill's Pharmacy, and I would always get some more Old Spice, and he always had plenty of Old Spice, because every kid would get that for his father on Father's Day. I don't know if it was Old Spice, but with me, boy, I always got Old Spice. And but for Mom, we would cook. And this year, because remember, a good mother deserves a good Father's Day, our older boy, who is a corporal now in the Marines, drove up from his base in San Diego there. And, that was the reason. He drove up for Mother's Day. And so we could all go to dinner together, which is awfully nice of him. And that's a heck of a drive, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but San Diego to Los Angeles is, on a perfect day that nothing goes wrong, it's 2.5 hours. And that's not speeding, but you can really glide along and say, look how beautiful it is. Look at that. Look how the ocean is. Look at that. But if anything is wrong, and there's always something wrong. I mean, come on, there's always construction or traffic. Suddenly, then it becomes it's a 3.5 hour drive. And, you're ready to kill someone, and they're ready to kill you. But that's all right, and because that's the drive. It's both the greatest and the worst drive in America. But he came up, he got here about 5:30 on Sunday afternoon, and, my wife was thrilled to see him, and he made a good, he made a great Marine effort there. And we all went out, the four of us, to a nice restaurant, not a fancy place, but it was a good barbecue place that was filled with families. And everybody was the same in the sense that every father with every family was a chubby comedy writer. I mean, that's what they are. My wife is a great writer-producer. And, I'm me. But we knew everyone there, every father and every mother, too. But all the fathers, hey, look, there's Brian. Hey, look, there's Phil. They're all, other writers my wife has worked with. And that's a perfect place to be because, the fathers are all a little chubby, which is what they are. And because they're writers. I remember when the first writers' strike, when they would give out T-shirts that were all, the Writers Guild shirts were all XXL and XXL. And they were. Now you put those on, you say, this feels good. And that's where every chubby writer had a very comfortable, large, extra large, never mind large, extra large, 2XL or 3XL shirt. And then I was asked by the Screen Actors Guild, which I'm a member of also, that they wanted me to come down and make a speech to tell them they had a rally outdoor at a studio on Pico, and that's right, it was Fox. At any rate, though, so they asked me to come down and make a speech, and I said fine. So I got down there and went to the head table there with all the folks who were organizing everything, and they said, "Oh, here, put on a SAG T-shirt," and I said, "Great," but all they had there was SAG T-shirts, meaning they were all small and extra small. Because they're for actors. That's when I laughed because I realized, that's the difference there. Let's see, we're looking for T-shirts for writers. Oh, then we get the 2XL and then the 3XL. What about for actors? No, for actors, you mean like Keira Knightley? No, we're going to get her a triple small, and you're a guy, so we'll give you a double small. They were all, I'm telling you, I looked like Jethro, where your hands and arms are stinging. It's like wearing something in an asylum where they don't want you to riot anymore. But I did. I put one of those on over the Writers Guild shirt, just silly, realizing that, actors get the skinny T-shirts because they are skinny. And writers get the fat T-shirts because, well, they're not skinny. And at any rate, though, we went to a nice restaurant with all sorts of writers in it. And they were all eating the thing we ate. Now, Mom, and she deserves it. She could get a fancier dish there, because it's Mother's Day. She could get something like a sliced London broil or a piece of fish or something. And she can relax. She can have a couple of drinks if she wants. And she did. She had a few drinks, and because she knew that I could drive back, or one of the kids was there. He could drive us back. And so she had a great meal, and I, as the dad, can tear into a rack of ribs and look like a Roman slave. I mean, it's not as elegant. And, you've got your face lathered in sauce and meats and a big frosty mug of beer that keeps getting refilled magically. And then you pay for the thing, and every father at the end of the meal kind of gets up, stretches, and waddles to the bathroom, to wash up. But, of course, he has to get on the chubby husband line because every other chubby husband is doing the same thing. We've all eaten the same thing. We've all had a rack of ribs and a plate of, do you want the beans? Yes, I want the beans. Bring me the beans. You want a salad on the side? No, this is not a place for salads. Who's going to eat a salad here? No, bring me the beans, please. And everything. And by the way, take everything and fry it. The whole table, just fry it. But it was delicious. It was fine. It was good. And so, and then you go home after you've washed up. And you go home and everybody gets to hug. It's a meal. It's not 7 hours. It's about an hour and a half. And you go home and we took a picture and a nice smiley shot of the four of us. And my wife put it on Facebook or something. I think it was Facebook. And by the way, all of us, all the rib-stuffed fathers, then wind up sitting alone watching TV for a couple hours alone so that he can belch without making his wife want to throw up. His wife can go upstairs. It's a holiday. It's her holiday. And the truth is the husband can use that time alone to, that's the way to end the holiday. And then my son, the Marine, drove back that same night. He was only here for, about 2.5, 3 hours. But he's young and he's tough enough to do that. So we got back in the car and pulled out. We had a nice hug in the driveway, and he pulled out about 8:30 that night. And, thank God he got home safely back to the base there. It's weird for me to say home, by the way, that way, because coming back here, this is his home. But I suppose that's the classic thing a father should say. But you know what? It was a wonderful Mother's Day. And, our younger son got her something nice. He got her a card, and he wrote something nice in it. And that really moved her. It was very nice. And he wrote a check to her for $9. They had a running joke about that, the number 9 in money. So he gave her a check for $9, and she was teared up and said, "That's very sweet." She said, "Do you mind if I don't cash this? Can I just sort of thumbtack this to the bulletin board and then cash it?" But and then I gave her. Well, you know what? I've mentioned this before, and I'm not proud of it. But I kind of, and I went to Ralph's that day. This was a big supermarket in our area. And I went to Ralph's to get all sorts of things that both the boys and my wife might want, and even though our older son wasn't coming up from till 5:30 and we were all going to go out to dinner, still, there are things he likes, that herring, pickles, and things like that. And the things that even if he doesn't touch, Daddy can. The next day, things Daddy likes. But I got all sorts of stuff and coffee and milk and things we needed. And then I thought, Well, I hadn't gotten anything for my wife for Mother's Day. And that's stupid. I know it. But I didn't. I didn't get her anything. And I knew they had a flower department there at Ralph's. My wife doesn't like flowers. She doesn't like when I get her flowers. But I always think I'm not trying to make her, make her annoyed, but well, at least I can get that. I can do that. So I did. I went to the flower department, and there was a big line of men just like me. It was all men on Father's Day at the flower department. And one of the guys on line behind me said, "Boy, there's a big line today." And I said, "Well, yes, that's because it's the stupid husband's line." And he laughed and said, "You mean we're all?" I said, "Yes, that's right, you and me included. We're all just stupid, too dumb to buy our wives something yesterday or the day before that. Too dumb. And so this is the good stupid line. We can go up and get, and I got, 2 dozen roses. They, 2 batches, a dozen in each, and a balloon that said, "I love you, happy Mother's Day." And I was looking forward to bringing that home, by the way, but I put it in the balloon flew out the sunroof a couple of blocks from us here. And I mean, it went, whoo, it went like blasted out of the sunroof. And that balloon is on Mars now. That thing was going. And, well, you know what though? I was glad I set the roses up in 2 different vases with water, and I took the little card they had there and wrote something affectionate, which is not your business. And I think she liked that just fine. But you know what? Again, a good mother deserves a good Mother's Day and a good gift. Next year, well, maybe I'll get her something better. But you know that, and I know that. I hope you had a good one and that you have a great one too next year on Mother's Day. And we know the same things, folks. Homer is Homer and Pluto is a planet. So remember, as always, if you walked out of bed today and had a job to go to and a home to come back to and someone there who cares about you, folks, the game's over and you've won. Happy Everything Day. We'll see you next time.